Hey, how's it going? So, occasionally things will happen where I realize that different people approach the world in very different ways than myself. And it's good. It's good to check myself because if I proceed under the assumption that other people think like I do and have the same values as I do and have the same objectives as I do, then I can quickly get myself into a sort of position where I'm going to be accidentally strawmanning other people and maybe even unfairly judging them. Now, I don't know that this is really a case of a value judgment of people, but it is a case where my expectations of how a process or application work or should work differed somewhat significantly from somebody else. From a cursory view from 10,000 feet, it looked like both she and I had the same exact problem. We each wanted an encrypted notes app. We wanted to be able to write notes on our phone and then unlock them using a password. That seems like to me, in my mind, the way that I approach that, that's a very simple concept that doesn't really differ that much between different individuals. Now, I use an encrypted notes app to maintain a list of my passwords. And the expectation was that I wanted to have access to my passwords and I didn't want anybody else to have access to my passwords. That made sense to me. That seems like a use case for an encrypted notes application. And then I read the updates that came through on my encrypted notes application, and it said that you could pay to have your notes backed up on the cloud. Now, that sort of raised an eyebrow for me. It's like, yeah, the more people who have access to my files, the less secure my files are. And while I didn't deliberately choose a password that I thought was susceptible to brute force attacks, that's not really a threat model that I want to deal with. And if at some point in the future my master password were to leak, well, I don't want all of my notes to be exposed, obviously. So yeah, and sure, just a stupid password that I enter on my phone. Maybe it really does only have 45 bits of entropy or something, and that is within the range of what a dedicated attacker would be able to brute force, especially given enough time and resources. So I thought, well, they're offering this additional service, but it doesn't affect me in any way. That's not a problem. I definitely had to do a double take later. So another update came through, and I read the release notes, and I was absolutely dumbfounded. I could not believe what I was reading. It was saying, hey, if you pay for premium or whatever the hell they were calling it now, this will give you access to your previously written notes before you paid for premium. And I said, now wait a minute, wait a goddamn minute. How do you have access to something before I sent it to you? Well, and the answer was absolutely obvious. It was being sent without my knowledge. Now, did I peruse every bit of documentation before using the app? No. I proceeded under the assumption that an encrypted notes app meant what I thought an encrypted notes app meant, was that I was encrypting a note on my local device. And look, I'm not going to retell the story about the time I got super pissed off at Microsoft for sending my encrypted documents to their cloud server. And I'm not often going to say something positive about Microsoft, but at the very least, I expect Microsoft's cloud server to be a little bit more secure than some app on the Android store. I guess it's called the Google Play Store. But yeah, sorry, no offense to any developers out there, but you've already established that what you call an encrypted notes app is fundamentally different than what I call an encrypted notes app. And sometimes I have to do a double take when I encounter what I'd say the difference between business people and engineering people are. And it seems like a lot of apps that are developed are not developed with an engineering mindset. They're developed with let's make some money by making an app, which is fine. That's a perfectly valid way of thinking, except when you start exposing my private data. Then I start to be like, within the context of me wanting my private data protected, suddenly your business mindset needs to go fuck itself. That's, the way that I approach it. So now I'm not going to word that in a review, but that's the way that I look at it. But that's not the end of the story. Oh no, that's not the end of the story. So I continued to read the patch notes, and they said that if you pay for premium and you forget your master password, you know what I'm about to say, don't you? They can reset your master password and you can get your notes back. Yeah, okay. Alrighty then. I downloaded the Encrypted Notes app because I wanted no person on the face of the earth to have access to the contents of my encrypted notes file. Sorry, I'll put this down. Fidgeting. I wanted nobody on the face of the earth to have access to my passwords file. That would be really annoying if somebody got a copy of that. And what do I get? I get it sent to some app somewhere. So they're storing it. I don't know how they're storing it. Should I trust that they're storing it well? I don't know. The more I find out about what they call an encrypted notes app, the less I trust them to securely store my data. Moreover, I now know that they're not using a true encryption, at least not what I call encryption. The entire point of encryption is that you can't read the data without the fucking password. That's what encryption is. This isn't complicated. Okay? Like, if I bought a deadbolt and it's like, oh, by the way, there's this feature that if you whisper to the deadbolt, I forgot my key, it just unlocks. Like, sorry, you have fundamentally altered what the concept of a deadbolt is, and that needs to be disclosed ahead of time. Apparently, what some people think encryption means is make it very slightly more difficult to read the data from this device in the intended fashion. And I'm sorry, that's not what encryption means to me. So I uninstalled that application and I left it a bad review, and I didn't really think about it since then. I've been very skeptical of encrypted apps ever since then because I read Cryptography Engineering by Niels Ferguson and Bruce Schneier, and yeah, they are very critical of encrypted apps just in general. It's just most of them are made by amateurs. Well, almost all of them are made by amateurs. Almost none of them are security reviewed by professionals because that shit's really expensive. And you need a team of, cryptographic experts to review things just to make sure that they're good. And, it's not there. And then when it's closed source, then it's even worse because then you have no idea what they're doing. People use made up encryption algorithms, don't even know, how block ciphers work, and yet they're trying to implement these things. So the entire ecosystem is really frustrating. And I keep running into frustrations where it seems like encryption products are being peddled, but they're not actually delivering true encryption. I literally paid for a professional version of of Windows so that I could get BitLocker so that I could stop paying for BestCrypt. And so I went to enter in my password, and it's like, oh, no, we store your password in the BIOS securely. It's secure. I'm like, well, then it's not fucking protecting me from anything, is it? If I could just boot my machine, then it's not protected. They're like, well, in this one specific use case where the hard drive is taken out of the machine and to a remote location and put into another machine, nobody will be able to access the files. Like, so fucking what? Back to the deadbolt, okay? If I had a deadbolt that just automatically unlocked as soon as anybody approached, and they said, well, if the deadbolt were removed from the door and taken to a remote location, then it wouldn't do that anymore. It's like, well, that's great. What the fuck? What the fuck? Give me my money back. I literally paid for a feature that you're not delivering. All I want, you can do whatever the fuck you want in the BIOS. I don't give a shit. Just use strong encryption after, with no backdoor, no enter your fucking school or some shit to unlock it. None of that shit. Actually encrypt my fucking data with a password. No backdoors, no unlock, no if you forgot your password, no if your mother-in-law calls and offers us an Apple gift card, we'll unlock it. None of that shit. Just fucking encrypt my fucking data. That's what I want. That's what I want from an encryption app. And so time goes by and I'm just generally pissed off. And now every year I got to pay for BestCrypt, which to the best of my knowledge doesn't have a backdoor, but I'm not going to be surprised if one day it's like, well, yeah, there was a backdoor. I hope that's not going to happen, but I'm proceeding under the assumption that it's not going to. So anyways, time goes on and this girl, the aforementioned, she has an encrypted notes app. And she wants to reset the password because she forgot the password. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not unsympathetic to the need. All right. If I owned a safe and I couldn't get in the safe because I forgot the combination, then I can understand wanting to get in the safe. What I can't understand is a safe just being like, oh, well, you forgot the password. Just hit 9 a bunch of times and it'll open. That I can't abide. But that's what she wanted. She wanted, it's like, yeah, I want password protection unless I claim that I'm the one that made it and I claim that I forgot the password. In that case, I don't want password protection. To me, that's not protection. That's just, at best, that's a mild annoyance. But that's what she wants. And it's funny because she went and left an angry review. It's like, I can't reset my password. This is an outrage. Yes, that was a Dungeon Crawler Carl reference. Anyways, it's funny because clearly this is the opposite of my position. Clearly, this is the opposite of the reason that I left a negative review on something. And I don't really think that either of us is wrong, but it does lead me to wonder what does encryption mean to people? Maybe that's what people think encryption means. Make it very, very slightly more difficult to access some information, which is fucking weird. But then again, I have a master's degree in computer science with an information systems specialty. So basically, that's as close to an encryption specialization as you can get. And I don't know, maybe I just fundamentally think about things differently. And look, I don't want to sound like a dick or judgmental, but I feel like when I talk to these really non-techie people that are like, yeah, if I forget my password, then I should just be able to turn off the password. I feel like they're not exploring the true nature of their request, or they don't know the implication of their request. And maybe that's fine. Maybe they don't want any data to be truly private. Maybe they don't want any kind of true protection to actually exist. I want precisely, well, gotta be careful what I say. The only way, if you don't have the password, that you should be able to access something that's encrypted, assuming it's a symmetric encryption algorithm, is through brute force. That is my opinion. I strongly feel that way. That's what encryption means to me. And if you have a product that says it encrypts shit, it had better be damn clear up front if there's a backdoor. It had better be damn clear up front if you intend to propose an alternate way to access the data. And it had definitely better be clear if you're going to be caching my local data on your shitty remote cloud server. You had better, just an overabundance of opting in, not the other way around. That's how I approach things. And if I ever made an encrypted notes application, that's how I would design it. But when I made my application, okay, yep, here's my application here. It's for studying Kana. Um, there's no remote server. There's no telemetry. There's no advertisements. There's no remote account setup or data collection or anything. There's none of that. Okay, there is a premium mode, and it checks with the Google Play Store if your device is registered for the premium code. That's it. I have no implementation. I have no setup, and Google Play Store kind of mandates that you check in repeatedly anyway because they want the telemetry, and that's fine. But I expect people who have an Android device to trust Google a hell of a lot more than they trust me. Well, and that makes sense because who the fuck am I? I mean, if you have an Android device on some level, you understand that that's interfacing with remote systems. Okay, but not necessarily every remote system for every single app that you choose to install. And yet it seems like my approach to that is the opposite of other people. And I was telling some of my coworkers about the app that I wrote, and they're like, "Oh yeah, well you can start collecting this data and see how people are using it." I'm like, "No, I'm not collecting anything. I That's part of the point. It's part of the privacy that I wrote in my disclaimer. No remote accounts. They're local accounts, but there's no remote accounts. There's no remote caching of data. And I'm not going to spring it on somebody. Oh, now if you pay me money, you can restore your old. Fuck that. Jesus Christ. So I guess my takeaway is that people either don't understand encryption, or they don't want encryption, or they want encryption until it's inconvenient, in which case they retroactively want there to not be real encryption, all of which is very strange to me. Now, I had offered to attempt to extract the data and help this person brute force the password. That we didn't do that, and I don't really know if there's any way to extract the data without rooting the device. In which case, I obviously wouldn't. She's reached out to the developers, and lo and behold, there might be some backdoor. Well, yippee ki And I can't really talk to her about it because her perception of what should be is so fundamentally different than my perception of what should be that we can't even interface on the same level. It's like, I'm sympathetic to your situation, But, you know, I, I, I don't even know. I don't even know what my point is. It's just that it was amusing to me that we had such fundamentally different takes on what an encrypted notes app is, which seems like it should be relatively well defined and implied just from saying the name of what it is. And I have very, very little faith in anything that purports to be an encrypted notes application at this point. Now, there are so many backdoors and ways that you can be monitored through a phone. We don't need additional backdoors being implemented by developers of third party apps. And at the end of the day, I think that my best bet is just to not have any data on the phone um, that I couldn't reasonably have lost. I can't have a password file on there, which is fucked because I need my password file. But what do you do? What do you do? Um, and by the very nature of the device, it's kind of impossible to not have data that you can't have leaked. But everybody has a phone, and I guess this is just the world that we live in. So, yeah, life is pain. I think that we have to approach these things with a certain level of rationality and pretty low expectations. I remember just being absolutely dogpiled when I came out and publicly said that I was annoyed that my sensor data was being leaked to websites through my browser, and there was no way to turn that off. And everybody's like, "That's not private data, and it doesn't matter." I'm like, "Well, if it doesn't matter, then shouldn't it not matter if I turn it off?" And I think that I have a machine learning certificate, so that's sort of postgraduate work. There's a lot of sensors inside of a phone. And if you can collect enough data from enough sensors over a long enough period of time, the fact that your location data isn't one of those things that's just freely available eventually becomes irrelevant. There can be correlations between your sensor data and your location that humans might not even understand, but an adequately advanced machine learning model could infer. And you're just saying that's fair game all the time. My accelerometer, fair game 24/7. My gyro, excuse me, fair game 24/7. What other sensors? My pressure sensors, elevation, gravity. Um, yeah. And if people accept that location is protected, then I'm positing that it may be possible using non location data to extrapolate location data, in which case, through simple logical inference, the very thing that you claim, oh yeah, that actually is protected, is revealed. But it's like talking to fucking brick walls. It's like people hate privacy. People hate the concept of privacy. And I'm reasonably certain that the people who are jumping on me aren't the same people who ever thought about sensor data being sent to remote websites in the first fucking place. They're just hearing something and reacting because all humans are morons. And maybe I'm included. Maybe that includes me too. But oh well, what do you do? Whoop de doo. All right, see ya. Peace. Whatever.